whole nother level, but still keep it ghetto. Whole nother level, but still keep it ghetto.
Welcome to episode 28 of The Process of Hip Hop. I'm Brian Joseph, writer, blogger, processofhiphop.com, and as always, it's all about the process. In today's interview segment, I'll be talking to Kawana Jackson, aka KFlow, an MC from Charlotte, North Carolina. So let's get into it.
I'd like to welcome to the Process of Hip Hop, all the way from Charlotte, North Carolina, Miss Kawana Flow, aka KFlow. Kawana Jackson, aka KFlow. How's it going, my lady?
It's going pretty good. Going great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you joined the podcast, and I've had a chance to listen to some of your music, and very impressed. And I wanted you to start with, I know you're from North Carolina, but tell me about your background and how you specifically got interested in becoming an MC.
Well, it started with poetry, to be honest. I started hanging out at there's a poetry spot here called the Wine Up. And that was just the place to be some years ago. And I got really interested in writing poetry from there. And then I started performing some of my pieces. And I ended up turning some of those pieces that I wrote into songs. And then others started turning into rhymes. What really happened was later on, after the Wine Up kind of died down, I wasn't visiting as much. There was another little get together here in Charlotte called Sounds and Sixteens. So fast forward just a few years ago, some of my hip hop friends and producers, they were like saying, come out to it's Hella Collab and then Sounds and Sixteens. They're the same people do both. And what it is people share their rhymes, producers share their beats, and people get on the stage and rhyme. So some of my friends, they knew that I sang and they knew that I wrote poetry. And they were like, well, you're halfway there if you're doing poetry. Why don't you just rhyme? And I was like, okay, I'll try it. And so I started getting on the mic, and it just kind of caught on. The mayor of our city actually visited the Sounds and Sixteens, and she was having a Sounds of the QC hip hop contest. So she actually encouraged some of the MCs to enter. I found out about it last minute. I wasn't even there that night, and I submitted my name about maybe it was like the night of the deadline. So and I ended up becoming a finalist.
Wow.
I submitted my music, one of my rhymes, and I became like a top 14 finalist. And I was like, this is crazy. This was right after I decided, okay, I think I'm going to try this MC thing.
Yeah.
And it was really great. I was able to come out and showcase my talent online, and then just see other MCs that had made it to the finalists. I didn't win, but I felt like that was an encouragement to say I had something going on. And so I just started writing more from there. So I guess the poetry and my friends encouraging me, I think all of that actually just kind of pushed me out there to start rhyming more.
And you said a lot of interesting things right there. There is a strong, obviously in African American culture, there's an oral tradition. So poetry just is kind of a natural thing, I will say, to the culture. So, and then poetry as it relates to hip hop has such a connection, and how many, Tupac was a pretty prolific poet. DMX definitely has a spoken word style in his rhyming, and those are two that come to mind. And obviously Rhapsody also has definitely it's very much, and I hear that when I listen to you, that there was, without knowing that, I almost knew that, meaning that you were a poet prior to you being an MC, because it was very much there was a poetic style to your rap. that's not always, that's very unique. I'll say kind of reminiscent of again some of the people I mentioned even. And then you also sing though too, like you kind of vacillate back and forth. You have a little bit of that. Lauryn Hill does that, obviously Nicki Minaj does that. What was the, like, who are the influences? I've named some people who I think that you seem to be influenced by, but who were some of the people you were influenced as you were crafting your style?
Well, definitely listen to Rhapsody, because she's from Carolina.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and definitely liked her style. I listened to Remy Ma. Um, started listening to 3D Nati. She's an underground hip hop or artist, and a lot of female, um, Bahamadia,
yeah.
a lot of female MCs I started kind of really paying attention to and studying. I actually started watching a lot of documentaries about the evolution of hip hop, because I wanted to know a little bit more about the history and what I was really getting into. And so MC Light, Queen Latifah, Lauryn Hill, of course. Yeah, so those are like big influences. Um, I loved Flowetry when they were out.
Yes.
So a little bit of the, Marsha Ambrosius, singing, and then the Flowet, she was flowing poetically. So
Hmm.
that was a big influence as well. So yeah, I guess I just took a lot. Um, as far as males, I guess I listened to Jay-Z, Nas, um, gosh, it's just so many. Lil Wayne,
Yeah.
I like his punchlines.
Yes. Yeah, he's one of the
Uh,
best when it comes to that. Definitely.
yeah,
Hmm.
so there were just so many that I was just kind of Scarface, that I was just kind of paying attention to, and then just some of the older the older MCs that kind of started it out, like
Hmm.
gosh, I'm thinking about like Father MC, and just some of the older pioneers, when I was
Yeah.
looking at the evolution of hip hop, just listening to their style and just how they just kind of started the whole thing. So I just grabbed a lot and just tried to make my own sound.
And I think to be an MC, this is just my personal opinion, you have to be a hip hop aficionado yourself. You have to be a fan of the genre. It's like
Right.
you, and I ask that question because I'm always interested in hearing what people's influences are, but I've also talked to people where they'll say, I listen to this individual, listen to this individual, and then maybe they even listen to non hip hop,
Right.
genres that influence them. So it's a lot of things go into your, who making you and forming
Right.
you as, you try to be original, but there's a lot of things that go into. Now you kind of talked about when you entered contests and you did well. What was that first project though? Like, so kind of take me to after that. You said you were kind of in contact with producers and stuff, but what was the first project where you felt like KFlow has now been established as an artist?
Well, and I want to rewind because I don't want to forget J. Cole. I
Oh,
love
of course.
J. Cole.
Yeah.
So
I
I
was gonna
don't want to
say
forget to
North
put his.
Carolina, you better not forget J. Cole.
I don't, yeah, I actually went to his concert when he came to Charlotte a few years ago. So yeah, so I didn't want to forget him. Um, so anyway, as far as K-Flow has, I would probably say my most recent mixtape. And to be honest, if you listen to it, I've actually probably dated myself, as far as when I wrote those rhymes. Uh, they were written like 2017. You'll hear me say in one of the rhymes. I actually just put that mixtape out, and people have been asking me, put stuff out for a while. I would do like 16 bars on my Instagram, and I called them my rap sessions. I started that back in around 2017, and then I started. I kind of stopped for a little while and then started back up. So I was writing. I was doing a lot more writing than I was really putting anything out there, besides the 16 bars that you would see on Instagram. I had went to the studio, actually laid down um, some rhymes, and I hadn't released it yet. And so people were like, "When are you gonna do your project? When are you gonna put out your mixtape?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna get it out there." So I just decided to say, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Um, and it was called Alter Ego, and it was just released last month. And it was pretty much me talking about who I am as a person, just the many sides of me. Side A is really, uh, really hip hop. Side B is a little lighter. You have more singing on it, but I think this kind of gave people just a peek into exactly who I am as a person. My thoughts, the good, it was the good girl, the bad girl, the the hard, the soft. It was just a very contrasting project, and I wanted people to see that. So
Yeah.
a lot of people didn't know exactly who I was, and I think that the mixtape actually opened them up and they got to see more personal sides of me, my thoughts, um, and just just who I am, the many sides of who I am.
And that I was going to ask you, the content in your rhymes appears to be very, very personal. Doesn't sound like you're, walk around with a Tech 9. I'm shooting up this, and then that doesn't sound. It sounds like it's very much, your content is very personal. Was that so? That was intentional. That
It
you
was.
talk about that a little bit.
I write about things that I've gone through. I write about things that are on my mind. So it was personal. I had a couple that were one of them was a message song, "Wake Up," which hopefully I'll be shooting a video to very soon. And I had written that years ago. The melody, the rhyming part, I actually recently put on there, put a rap portion on there. So it's just talking about basically what's going on today, with the whole I would say lynching of black
Yeah.
men by the
Right.
police,
Right.
really,
Hmm.
and just just the brutality of it all, and that just we as a culture just need to wake up. Um, so yeah, one interesting thing that you might not know about was that after I made the semifinalists, I made some friends there. The guy that actually won the Queen City Hip Hop contest, he actually became a friend of mine. But he actually reached out to me. He said, "Oh, there are some people that I know, and they're putting on an internet rap battle, and I'll put your name in the hat." And I'm like, "Really?" Because that's not his thing.
Right.
And so I had to battle it was about 20, 21 guys. I was
Oh,
the only
wow.
female. And it really made me exercise my pen.
Yeah.
And I actually came in second place.
Hmm.
Um, and so I had to talk junk.
Yeah.
I
Right.
had to hold my own, and and I studied the art of battling before I
Hmm.
actually went into it, and so that actually pulled out another side of me. Um, so I can talk some, you know,
Yeah.
junk.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Can we cuss on here?
Yeah.
But,
Yes, you can.
okay, I can talk some shit.
Yeah, when you need to. Well, and and it's interesting because I think female MCs have it. Hip hop is 50 years old, okay, and you've always had female MCs. Shout out to Sha Rock, shout out to Nikki D. Obviously talk about Queen Latifah, Salt and Pepper. I mean, you've always had female MCs, but I don't always know if female MCs were like held to the same high standards that their male counterparts. It was almost like I felt like if a female MC in the early days, if they could rhyme, it was like, oh great, they can rhyme, and they but I think nowadays that's changed. Yeah. And I think it's actually changed. I think, it's not just recently. I think it's actually been in the works for several years now, that you have to be a talented MC. You're not just going to get on because you're a female, or because you're a cute face, or because it's like you're going to have to have talent. And I think, Rhapsody winning a Grammy, obviously solidifies that, but you've had other artists, obviously, Cardi's success, Nicki's success, Foxy and Kim paved the way for a lot of what you see, I think, today in with female MCs being able to talk about, kind of talk dirty, talk greasy like the male MCs, but then still have that very technical, sound to them. So I think your experience is that's consistent with what I'm saying. I mean, it's like you don't get any breaks just for being a female MC anymore, Oh,
yeah. They didn't play nice with me, and no. I didn't play nice with them. I did not hold back. And for me, I'm a writer, so a lot of the rhymes I write. And one thing that poetry taught me, because I used to go to poetry workshops, is the one thing that it taught me was the editing process, and going back and editing my work. And a lot of people don't realize that I think that's the best part. I get my thoughts out, but going back and editing, I learned to love the editing. Even when I was doing my battles, like, I was writing those. I studied my opponent,
Yeah.
I studied my opponent, and that's what they didn't do. A lot of them didn't do that. And so I'm giving away my strategy, but at the same time, it's a sport. It's a sport. It's almost like, if you're battling, it's almost like boxing, in the ring with somebody, and you study your opponent, and you see their weaknesses, and you see, and you write to that, and then just my regular, just rhyming and just me writing about my personal life or my experiences. Same thing. I learned to love the editing process. I get my thoughts out, but then, how can I say this in a way that it paints a picture, with metaphors and similes and all of that, the wordplay, so it becomes, I don't know, it just becomes exciting, and delicious, because it's like, oh yes, like when you say it the way you want to say it, and it's painting a picture, and that punchline or that metaphor, that it really drives the message home. I love it. I love it. So yeah.
And not many MCs, you talk about writing, not many MCs, I'll say, take the business of writing, in my experiences, as serious as they need to. You talked about, because you said editing, which the connotations is you've already done the writing. You're now going back, and you have to sharpen that, continue to sharpen that up. And you look at the greatest MCs are prolific writers, even if they don't always, the whole, well, I don't write my rhymes down, and and I don't know how much, and I hear that and I say, I think there's some truth to that, but not everybody is that talented to be able to not to have that all in their head, and the more that you rap, I feel that your rhyming strategy and technique becomes stronger the more you do it, and then with your poetry background, I'm sure that makes it easier. So Okay, so you have the mixtape. What's next? What would you like to do? I mean, because now you're at a level now where it's like, all right, KFlow, what's next?
What's
What's
next?
happening? Yeah.
Well, I'm still writing. I have a lot of work. I have notebooks and just stuff that just hasn't been released. So it's a matter of me getting in the booth and laying a lot of it down. Um, and then I want to create some more visuals. Like what's immediately next for me is probably shooting some videos. There are a couple of songs on the mixtape that I definitely want to have visuals to. I definitely want to have a visual to wake up, actually see what it is I want to do. So I'm working with a videographer right now, and I think that we can probably get that visual out because I think it's needed for the times that we're living in right now, and I want to do it right, and I want to do
Yes.
that song justice. So I really want to work with him. He actually shot the Queen on the Premises video. So that was Queen. I will say Queen on the Premises was the song that said, "Hey, here's KFlow," but
Okay.
the mixtape was the project that said,
Right.
"Okay,
Yeah.
here's KFlow." She's not
Hmm.
just like this one song, Queen on the Premises, and they loved that. The visuals were great on that. But I think that next would be shooting some videos, and then probably releasing another project, um, which would probably be a collection of stuff that I've probably already written.
Written down.
And
Who now? I just thought, who would you like to work with? Like, if if you had your ideal production crew, even other artist collaboration, who would you like to work with?
wow, oh my gosh, I would definitely have to say J. Cole and or Rhapsody, just
Yeah.
because they are from the home state. Um, wow. You know what? I would like to work with MC Light because she's a
Yeah.
legend.
Yes.
Now that's a
Yes, she is.
legend that I would like to
Yes.
work with.
Hmm.
Gosh, and she's so awesome. Yeah, I would definitely like to work with her. Um, mm, and just like a fun, something that would be just fun. I think somebody that would be fun to work with and would probably be somebody like Cardi. Cardi B
Yeah.
would be somebody
Hmm.
that is just she's kind of raw and she's pretty authentic and she's comfortable in her own skin. But I think it would just be kind of fun just to just be in the room and just kind of just
And
kind of
what a
hang out and be fun.
no what about from a production standpoint?
I would say Zaytoven, I think, is a really good
Yeah.
producer.
Hmm.
Um, who else would I say? Someone that I also think that is legendary on production. Um, you know what? I like Jazzy Jeff. I
He's a
think
legend.
he's a
Yeah,
legend.
he really is.
And I
No,
just
he really
don't
is.
think they put him out there enough, but
Well, he's one of those ones that unfortunately he's looked at because of the success of Will Smith, Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince. He's looked at like, oh, he's a fun producer, and it's like, no, Jazzy Jeff can get down with the best of them in terms of
yeah,
production.
yeah.
So, but for whatever reason, though, I think that's what it is. I think the Fresh Prince, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince made him into, people think of him as like, oh, he's a fun
Hmm.
producer, and somehow
Hmm.
not as good.
Yes.
But no, that's a
He's done
total
some stuff,
misconception.
and I think he's worked with Jill Scott on her
Yes.
first. album or first CD. So he's versatile like that. So I think it would be great for me since I sing too. So
Yeah.
um, and then I would also say I think Pete Rock is really good.
Love Pete Rock. Yes.
And yeah. And then I would say just some of my producer friends. I have a lot of producer friends around here that the Queen on the Premises, I worked with a female producer. I have just producer friends, and they are the ones that encouraged me to start doing this MC thing.
Mm,
So I would definitely work more with them.
yes.
So yeah.
And I asked that because I think it's as an MC you grow. You know, I think an MC has arrived. Well, there's not just one specific thing, but I think one of the things that shows an MC has arrived when they're rapping with either with various types of producers
Hmm.
and doing different collaborations, because it's very easy to get caught up in, you hear this person and it's the same sound, same
Right.
production. And I think like one of the examples that comes to mind when Jay did the Black album, he had like this
Yeah.
all-star lineup of
Mhm.
producers though on there. I mean, he
Yeah.
had Ye on there, but he also had old school cats like Rick Rubin, and he had Timbo, and he
Yes.
had, I think, it's like he had, he's worked with Swiss and Dre. I mean,
Uh,
there's a lot of, I think part of what that showed is that the ability to adapt to a
right.
production style,
Right.
versus
Right.
I just have one, it's kind of like
Yeah.
getting out of your comfort zone. So that's why I asked that question,
And
to
I
see.
would definitely throw Swiss Beats in there.
Yeah.
I think he did a lot with the Rough Riders when they were out.
Hmm.
So yeah, yeah, I definitely would think that would be a
Hmm.
good fit as well. So yeah, there are just so many, and I think you're right that different producers they kind of pull you and stretch you. I think
Yeah.
and I think that's good exercise. When you are working with different, and I mean I do that now. I don't think that there's. I mean, gosh, on the mixtape, of course I had industry beats that I'm rhyming on. But I have like a couple of different producers that I worked with. And then I actually helped create a couple of the beats by just collaborating with the producer on the sound that I could hear in my head. So yeah, I think that working with different producers stretches you different ways.
It does. And it gets, like I said, it gets you out of your comfort zone. And producers are very particular. They want, a lot of producers they want it to sound a certain way. Their track is their baby. So it's like your vocals are basically like an instrument
Right,
being played
right.
over. So they're very, I remember listening to an interview by Pharrell, and Pharrell was saying how, many times he goes into a project, he's already got the hook done. He's
Right.
already got everything done. He just needs you he wants to hear your instrument over this,
And
over
see
his,
what it does.
yeah. He's already, he talked, I think he was talking about when he did the production on Grinding with Clips. He already had the hook
Mhm.
done. The whole track was done. They just had to rhyme.
Right,
And that's like a lot of producers are like that. I mean, very much, Dre's like that. Swiss is like
right.
that. Pete Rock's like that. They are they have a lot of pride and ownership over their project, as they should. I
Yeah.
mean, it's their track. But
I think
so
Pharrell is to me, he he's kind of almost it's like him and Timberland to me. I don't they're kind of otherworldly, like
yeah,
almost like outer space, like,
yeah,
they're gonna take you out
yeah,
there. And I think if
right,
I
right,
worked with either of them, they would definitely challenge me because like,
yeah,
again, they're just they just hear things, especially
yeah,
with Timberland. Timberland just he just hears things like crazy
yeah,
things and just makes them like, oh, a cricket sound, oh, oh, a baby
yeah,
cry, ah,
right,
and he just makes it into something. And so to me, like I said, they're like otherworldly to me. And
Yeah.
I think it would probably, either one of them, it would probably be just interesting to see what would come out of that. There was one person that told me recently that they would love to see if I could ever work with Swiss Beats, what
Yeah.
he could help me do as far as finding, my voice and just making it just, you know, that signature sound. And I was
Hmm.
like, I never thought of that. But yeah, I think that he's a wonderful producer.
Yeah, and producers, they push their artists. That it's a I think that's a misconception too. You just come into the booth. I mean, depending on, all producers are different too, but they're very protective over their
Hmm.
track. So they want it to sound a certain way. They want you to,
Hmm.
do this, and not that they're writing, but many times they do r- change. I want you to say it like this or change it up, because in their mind they have a way that they think it should sound. I mean, the late Jay Dilla. I mean, he's also one of the best ever. I mean, he when you
I forgot all
said
about him.
otherworldly, I said, yeah, I think Jay Dilla was from another world. He just he just had
Yeah.
such
Oh
a
my gosh. He was, to me, like, I watched that documentary on him, and
yeah.
to me it was just like, oh, like, he had such a love and a passion, and he took it so seriously. I think he was in his mom's basement, and he
Yeah.
just transformed it into this place, this workplace, and all of
Hmm.
these vinyls that just lined the walls. And
Yeah.
he just took it so seriously. Gosh, you're reminding me of producers that I didn't even think of.
Yeah.
And I just had so much respect for him. I feel like I'm about to cry, because
Yeah.
it was almost like to his dying day.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Still
he
grinding.
was still,
Hmm.
I know, he became sick, and he was still out there, producing and performing, going
Hmm.
to shows, and he wasn't well, and still making beats to his dying day. Oh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
clenches my heart, because it just shows the level of dedication and the seriousness that he had,
Yeah.
about his work. And he definitely left a legacy. I'm glad you mentioned his name,
Yeah.
because I don't want to forget him. He's one of the greats. Yeah.
So you had your mixtape. You talked about your next project. What's like the best way for people to stay in contact with you and what you're doing and everything?
Um, Pretty much Kawana Jackson on all social media links, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. It's Kawana Jackson, Kawanna Jackson. And just kind of stay on the lookout. I'll be shooting some things out pretty soon, hopefully getting more visuals out there, and just really pushing content out that people, what may be old to me, but it's probably new to everyone else just because they haven't heard it. I just really want to get out those works, because I think people will get to know me a little bit more intimately, as they continue to hear the works that I put out.
Well, KFlow, aka or Kawana Jackson, aka KFlow. Thank you so much for joining the process of hip hop. Best of luck to you and all your
Thanks so
future
much.
endeavors.
Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Process of Hip Hop. Join us next week for our next episode. The Process of Hip Hop is produced and edited by me, Brian Joseph. Executive produced by Dale Harewood. Music by DJ Big Mike of Realside Records at realsiderecords.com.